Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Tom Homan takes Joe Scarborough to school, and what Joe Scarborough does at the very end of this video is telling on his character and where his morals are. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to our great sponsors over at AMAC, but more on that later. Now, let's dive in.
What's changed the circumstances from 2019 when the Trump administration agreed with a court, didn't appeal it, and let him be released back to his family and gave him this special protective status?
He is a designated MS-13 member who is now designated as a member of a terrorist organization where the withholding no longer applies, at least in our opinion. Now, I'll let DOJ fight that out. I'm not an attorney. I'll let the Department of Justice fight it out. But that is a stance that I believe we are right now, and we'll continue to litigate it. But I think we removed the bad guy from this country who is down at home in the custody of his country. And this country has to make the decision to release him. I mean, there's certain steps can be taken through an extradition, whatever. But right now, we think we made the right steps, and we took get bad guy and remove him from the United States, and now he's home.
So for viewers that are watching, what the order said was back in 2019 that he could be deported, but he could not be deported to El Salvador. So the procedure would be if he came back to the United States and then be deported. If he were deported to the Netherlands, or if he were deported to Honduras, any country but El Salvador, the courts would rule that to be legal. I want Mr. Holman. Let's move on.
But Joe, El Salvador is not off the table. Again, the situation about the withholding from El Salvador, the situation totally changed. The gang he feared doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. So the dangers or the basis for the withholding no longer exists, and that's where we're saying not only do those dangers no longer exist, he is also designated a terrorist organization. Doesn't apply.
Well, I think, Mr. Holman, I've always said America's fed and freed more people across the world than any country that's ever existed. We are a city, like Reagan said, that shines brightly on the hill for all the world to see. I think, though, people are seeing some of the situations, especially with what's happened with people being pulled off the streets and sent down to a maximum security prison in El Salvador without any due process. But you know, Joe, what people look at, if you let me finish, and then I'll let you finish. That strikes a lot of Americans as being un-American, and that even people like myself that's been talking about the need for strong borders for 30 years. You know, I think a lot of conservatives, and I can read you quotes from a lot of conservatives here, who say they want gang members out, they want violent members out, but there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. And a lot of people believe that what we've seen over the past 3 months is the wrong way to do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, look, the American people voted for this. American people voted for Donald Trump. This is number one issue. Vast majority of Americans want illegal aliens removed from this country, and it's done humanely. However, we got to remember this. There are millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. They're sitting in the back seat while 10.5 million illegal aliens came to this border, entered this country illegally, which is a violation of law. There's right way and right way to come to this country legally. The people who came across, they call them asylum seekers, but you and I both know, if you look at immigration court data, 9 out of 10 of those so-called asylum seekers will end up with an order removal. They overwhelm the system on purpose. Why? Because they know it's going to take 5, 7, 9 years to have a hearing, which they will lose, but now they have U.S. citizen kids. Now they own equities. Now there may be Democratic administration in power, which will award amnesty. They're playing the long game, but we're enforcing laws as enacted by Congress, which you are a member of. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws on the books, including the Alien Enemies Act, which is the act created by Congress. We're simply using the laws on the books to make this country safe again.
Y'all, the legend of Tom Homan continues to grow, where the infamy of Joe Scarborough has also grown at the exact same rate. Just look at this dude's body language during that last part of the interview. Arms together, barely holding back a scowl. He looked like he was getting really, really angry, either because Tom Homan was taking him behind the woodshed, or perhaps because his little earpiece is telling him, get Tom Homan off his spot. But deep down, Joe Scarborough knows Homan is right. Okay, Scarborough, who has actually been inside of our greatest legislature as a congressman, this dude should know better. But he refuses because he knows that if he dares tell the rich white liberals who lean in on his every word the truth about the matter, the truth that Abreu Garcia had been deported to El Salvador, his homeland, the truth that at one point two different judges said that this guy needs to be deported, and only one of them said that there should be a holding, that he should be held for a little while because El Salvador isn't safe. And now that El Salvador is safe, he can be properly deported. Okay? He refuses to report on those aspects, whereas Tom Homan is just rattling this off like it's a Tuesday. Hey, y'all. Are you 50 or older, but fed up with AARP's liberal agenda? Join AMAC, the conservative alternative standing for faith, family, and freedom. AMAC members get exclusive discounts, a conservative magazine, and updates on the social issues that you care about most, like Social Security, Medicare, and your freedoms. And right now, you can join for free. No credit card required. Go to amac.us/Politburawl to claim your free membership today. That's amac.us/Politburawl. This is the problem with our mainstream media outlets. They decide for some insane reason that it's a good idea to only focus on part of this story when the reality is two judges said that Abreu Garcia needed to go. Okay, the Trump administration had quite literally said that MS-13 should be considered a terrorist organization and thereby getting around certain other decisions, and he can now be greenlit to go back home to El Salvador, where he came from when he illegally entered our nation in 2011. We've had opportunity after opportunity to deport this man, and we've refused to do so. Now we can. Because Tom Homan is on the case. He is getting someone who has a whole lot of allegations against him. Okay? What Abreu Garcia has been mixed up in, it ain't good. And the more information we get, the longer the list becomes. It is a terrible situation for anyone who has a modicum of understanding what basic truth is, whereas Joe Scarborough can't say it, and he knows he can't, or else he might get fired from MSNBC because their viewers would raise such a stink, even though everything about Abreu Garcia lends us to believe that it's a good thing that this man has been deported. And instead of facing up to those facts, the Democrat Party seems to double, triple, and quadruple down on this issue, to the point where Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen decided in his infinite wisdom to visit El Salvador, possibly violating the Logan Act, might I add, and in doing so, try to see if Abreu Garcia is even still alive, because mainstream media outlets have been fomenting this idea that Garcia has left his mortal coil. Well, it turns out the dude's alive and well. He is in El Salvador, and he has helped make the Democrats look like an absolutely foolish political party. And this is what Trump himself said about the matter. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland looked like a fool yesterday for standing in El Salvador begging for attention from the fake news media or anyone. Grandstander. Trump is right. This is grandstanding. This is a kind of grift that there is no respect for whatsoever. And to make matters worse, instead of paying attention to his own constituents' needs, there in Maryland, which is, by the way, one of the worst run states in America because of Democrat rule. All right? New Mexico, Maryland, Illinois, New York, and California are all terribly run states because they've driven out their own middle class in favor of rich white liberals and, of course, poor minorities who now require those rich white liberals to have massive amounts of taxes in order to offset the problems. That's not a healthy economy, by the way. Just saying. And speaking of healthy, we have a situation that I wish I talked more about. I've been caught up in other details, but we got to keep on bringing this to the forefront. If the name Rachel Morin means anything to do, she was a jogger that was brutally assaulted and later died due to an attack from an illegal migrant in Maryland back in 2023. Funny, I don't see the Democrat outrage here. Okay? I didn't see Democrat outrage during this story. I didn't see it during Lake and Riley's stories. There are other ones in Texas that only Republicans dare to talk about. And instead, the entirety of the Democrat Party not only turned a blind eye when I think the head of the city council in Athens, Clarke County heard about this story, he urged people not to get violent and don't let rhetoric overtake you. This is where their values lie. They are more afraid of how you will react to something horrible an illegal immigrant has done than the horrible thing that the illegal migrant has done. This is disgusting. This is terrible. This makes everything worse. This makes the situation worse. This makes the rhetoric worse. This makes us being able to understand what needs to be done in order to properly move the scales of justice along, and it makes everything worse. The Democrats continue to poison the well over and over and over again. Joe Scarborough is trying to do it here for MSNBC. Chris Van Houten, Hollen is doing it in this ridiculous political stunt that everyone should be calling out. And they have turned a blind eye to the realities of illegal migrant crime here in the United States. And instead of dealing with the problem, they demonize anyone for daring to point it out. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one, and defund the media.